Okay, at this point, I'm 100% convinced that Candace Owens has zero regard for human life when it involves a black person being the victim of police brutality.
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
Man, welcome back to another episode of the Ruling Class Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Diddy, back up in this witch with another video. Listen, I just asked everybody to please like the video, hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, please make sure that you're still subscribed because they will unsubscribe you. Now listen, Candace Owens, I know I just made a video about this woman 2 days ago. I know I have made several videos on this channel about Candace Owens, but most times I've made videos about Candace Owens is me agreeing with Candace Owens. But in this particular case, as well as the last video I made, it's me going at Candace Owens and being critical of this woman. And this right here, I wouldn't even call it critical. I'm just criticizing her because I don't understand how, or maybe I do understand at this point, because I think it's obvious that this woman is pandering to a narrative that she's kind of placed herself into called, I don't even know if you can, pin it to conservatism, because I don't think everybody that's conservative would agree with her on a lot of these topics. But I think she's kind of painted her, she's already the black conservative woman that many so-called black people don't like. And I think she's embraced that role, and I'm okay with her embracing it because a lot of the things she talks about, I think she's right on. But this right here it's clear to me that when it comes to black people and police brutality, it's clear to me, a couple things are clear to me. It's clear to me that she's probably never lived in the hood before. It's clear to me that she's never seen some of the injustices that actually take place in these neighborhoods and communities. And it's like she has no sympathy. It's like she has no empathy, right? If somebody's wrong, then you call them out for it. They're wrong. Wrong is wrong. But when she do things like what she does on her channel, I just don't get it. So let's take a listen to what she just said.
You know what we haven't had in a while? Racial riots. I miss racial riots, right? It's like we just need something to happen to a black man and for the entire world to be on fire about it, absent with very little facts. And I just miss that. I miss that. And don't worry, guys, because George Floyd 2.0 is potentially coming. It is potentially coming to Memphis, Tennessee. At least that's where it's going to potentially start. And if you listen to this police chief who is speaking about a man, Tyree Nichols, who died 3 days after a traffic stop on January 7th, then you fully expect that anybody who rioted in the summer of 2020 for George Floyd is just waiting for the police cam footage to drop because of her words, right? She's saying, essentially, you're going to hear her in a few seconds. I'm going to note for people that are listening to this podcast and not watching it that she's a black woman. Her name's Carolyn Davis. And she's essentially saying, what you are going to see is so horrific and so bad, but please don't riot. Let's hear Carolyn in her own words.
I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video. I expect our citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to protest, to demand action and results. But we need to ensure our community is safe in this process. None of this is a calling card for inciting violence or destruction on our community or against our citizens.
Okay, so that's the setup. She's saying that she expects you to feel outrage. She's basically saying your outrage is okay for the disregard to basic human rights. So if you know nothing about this case, you're probably thinking, here we go, racist white cops are going to simply stop this man for a traffic stop, right? And just bludgeon him because he's black. That's what their language makes me feel like. If I just saw their language, absent the facts surrounding this, I would instantly say, this is going to be like something from the 1920s. Like the Klansmen just show up on a property and they just drag him out of his house and they're going to beat him just because he's black, right? She doesn't say anything about respecting the police officers, understanding that things escalated. I mean, she could have said anything here to make you aware that some other things happen. I mean, my guess is going to be that he wasn't listening to police instructions, right? And everything can escalate pretty quickly after that. All of the perfect buzzwords to get people thinking that they have every right to do whatever they want. You are rightfully outraged. You are going to see that they disregarded his human rights. And but no violence, please. Because that's just like a little safety thing at the end. It's like I'm basically saying like, whoa, you're going to be really angry. Ready your engines. Be at the edge of your... She's giving us suspense here. we're at the edge of our seats. I want to see the video.
Oh boy. I mean, this is so bad. I don't even know where to start. First of all, she sounds like a privileged child who was protected and sheltered her entire life that's never seen something like this in real life. Because I'll tell you, as somebody who has been open about how much I love the police and the idea of the police and how these situations that happened to Mr. Tyre Nichols, for those of you who don't know, a situation that took place in Memphis, Tennessee, when situations like that happen, you know, I am able to call out the police officers and how they're wrong, but I'm also able to say that that's not a representation of the entire police force, because it's not. I'm somebody who's always been open about how I have more great and more good encounters with police officers than bad ones, right? But I'm also able to understand and recognize that these are still human beings, right? And there are flaws in the human experience, right? So you got somebody like myself. I'm probably the biggest square you'll find, right? I do everything by the law. I abide by the law, right? Even I have had situations with police officers where they flex their authority, right? And if you have not seen the body cam footage of what happened to Mr. Tyre Nichols, I'm not going to say I advise you to watch it, because I try not to watch things like that anymore, but it's bad. It's really bad, okay? And so you have to recognize when wrong is wrong, wrong is wrong. I work for one of my jobs is at a homeless shelter. Right, a few months ago, I was driving and this police officer was behind me. My front tire went over the white line that's on the side of the road. I didn't get pulled over. He didn't turn his lights on. I got way down the road and almost 3 to 4 miles coming back. He pulled me over. I had no idea why I was being pulled over. He told me it was because on the way going to where I was going, he noticed that my front tire went outside the white line. This is a black police officer. And so there's the rumor out there, and there's this thing out there where people say that black police officers are worse with the black community than white police officers are. I don't know how true that is, but I can understand why that is. They want to flex their authority, flex their power. It happens, right? But when you have people like Candace Owens that get on here and say things like this, there's like no regard. There's no empathy, right? How can you imagine getting on camera and saying something like this without even seeing the body cam footage first? Oh, the police chief is you rev your engines and this is going to be so bad. Well, what if it is that bad? Right? They were comparing this footage before it came out to that of a Rodney King and that of a George Floyd. Now, I wouldn't say that it's as bad as a Rodney King, because I have seen bits and pieces of the actual footage. But for you to get on camera, you're only proving right the people who say, Candace, you're clearly just trying to fit a narrative and you're running with it, to the point that people in your own comment section are turning against you. Just like I did in another video, I'm going to read just a few of the comments under her own video. Her own supporters are turning against her because they recognize and like, Candace, what are you doing? You sound silly. We agree with you on a lot of topics, but you just sound ridiculous at this point. You sound like you have no empathy for human life. It sounds like you never have anything good to say about a black person who's being killed. You always want to be the person to have the hot take. Why, Candace? One person says, could not disagree with Candace more. I'm a police officer, and after having seen the footage, I'm outraged. Piss poor tactics, obvious lack of training, and total disregard for human life. Those 5 clowns deserve to rot in jail for making the rest of us look bad. This chief's response is exactly appropriate. I wouldn't be surprised if there are riots. Can't blame them. Derek Chauvin was one bad cop. This is an example of extreme brutality from 5 officers. Put skin color aside, this clearly isn't a racist cop issue. This is a culture specific to that department and training issue. Couldn't agree anymore. The comment right under, I don't even have to scroll. These are back-to-back comments. I typically am on your side, Candace, but this time you are wrong and need to say it. I can't wait to hear what you say after you see the sickening and brutal body cam footage. People should be more outraged over this. If a riot was ever deserved, these quote-unquote officers more than earned one. I would love to see you try to justify what happened to this man running or not. You can't justify this. She didn't show any ounce of care or consideration for the victim, and all based on what she thinks happened. This is her sickest video yet. You are absurdly wrong on this, Candace. Shame on you for not waiting for evidence. Candace, you lost me at quote-unquote racial riots when the officers involved in this matter were black themselves. So as far as having quote-unquote all the facts, it's safe to say that you automatically assumed that the cops were white. thus making this a quote-unquote racial issue in your mind, and you instantly jumped on the cop's side. Also, there were absolutely nothing wrong with what the police chief said. I agree. But you seem to distort it to fit your personal views. The black person is at fault. Those who you thought were white are in the right. And furthermore, it sounds like you're saying that the beating and death of the young man was justified for running from the police. We've actually have never seen you side with a black victim from police brutality. Same thing I said. On the contrary, have only seen you justifying the deaths of victims of police brutality. It's ridiculous at this point. It's ridiculous at this point. And I know I'm singing to the choir because a lot of you all have already felt this way about Candace Owens. But again, I think she has the habit of just trying to be more technical about things and paying attention to the details and not listening to the media. And on that side, I agree with her. She wants all the facts first. But with this, it's just like, it's just absurd, man. It's just absurd. Y'all up in the comment section and y'all give me y'all feedback, or don't give me your feedback. But this is a great example of how not to be when it pertains to human life. I am just sick to my stomach, man. Until next time, peace.
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.